Well, welcome to Portals of Perception. And today we are diving into self-leadership in preparation for an upcoming Portals event on April 26. All the details are going to be below, so you can find how you can join us. Do join us. It's going to be a fascinating threefold journey. We are exploring the epochal shift, why self-leadership is so essential in this time of epoch transition, and oh, by the way, why and how it is that self-leadership begins with your own energetic hygiene, practically meaning leading yourself to wellness and good balance and optimal fitness, such that you can do everything else that you can do for yourself, for your life, for the people around you, to lead effectively through these times of dramatic change. So I just turned the recording, although it wasn't planned. The plan was that I'll do a bit of a catch-up with everybody here who is going to participate in the event and going to lead some of the experiences in rooms. David Price Francis and I will make an opening into the territory as part of our current opening series, and then we're going to hand it to rooms to build on the experience of the significance of self-leadership. How do we approach it in a practical way? And the unique thing about this is that there isn't only one way into self-leadership. There are as many ways as there are people. And we're actually interested in the collective intelligence, in unlocking that and in bringing that forward and in liberating the greater intelligence we can bring to bear about self-leadership. So in the note I sent last night, I said, let's come together, let me have a bit of a chat and a catch up, and then we'll turn the recording and we'll invite each one of you to drop a pebble into the pond in terms of what comes alive for you when you hear the idea of self-leadership, and yeah, what is the significance of self-leadership for you today? And as I said, we just turned the recording because I'd like to find out whether what's going to happen in the next few minutes is a keeper, and if not, we'll edit it out. But so here is what happened, which is curious. I initially wanted to take the beginning of the year, beginning of 2025, for a writing retreat that I've been yearning for maybe more than 2 years, and never had the space. Actually, this week is 4 years to the launch of the formal launch of the Portals project. It's been behind the scenes in preparation for about a year. And so we're talking about a 5-year journey parallel to the epoch journey. So it's been a never-ending intensity for 5 years. And for the last 2, I've been yearning to create some space for a writing retreat. And I started writing in January, essentially focused on Portals into the Soul, chapter 7, which describes the interior trinity, the soul, the spirit, and the self. Fascinating story. And then started to develop chapter 8, which builds more about the self and more about the spirit. Then David and I managed to record in February. We actually recorded an episode about self-leadership, and it paralleled or was a follow-on to the Portals event we conducted in February. And then David and I essentially sketched what we thought would be an outline for this upcoming event. And then March arrived and surprised me. I produced very high fever. I don't do fevers, but I produced a very high fever and got more sick than I've been in many, many years. And it's strange. It almost as though something in the system said, well, you think you took a retreat, but you're not really taking the retreat in the way you're meant to. So we're going to actually put you offline. And because what it meant was that for the first time in 5 years, there is a point where you can no longer hold anything in your head, and you lose the capacity to hold any connective enhancing process when you feel like you are with one foot on the other side. That's how dramatic it felt on point. And so today, as I was doing my running on the beach and swimming in the ocean, which indicates that I've regained 98 more or less capacity, something turned up in me. And what it was a developmental riddle that I was exposed to many, many years as part of a group meditation. It'd be a group meditation where part of the technology of the meditation is that one stem is introduced after another stem, and each presents a thought starter that you are meant to develop. And it's kind of a guided meditation, guided contemplation. And one of those was a riddle. And the riddle said, if you were to change two things about you, what would these two things be? So most people, when you get something like this, I remember I probably thought, well, I would like to be more patient. You say to yourself, or I would like to be more compassionate, or I would like to be more developed. So you kind of begin to sketch for yourself potential lines of development, and all of these are legit, and each one of us, we can take up any of those. But actually, when you go deeper into that contemplation, the guidance or the revelation in that riddle later on is, well, actually you can't change two things about yourself. To change two things about yourself, you'll have to change 102 things about yourself. The reason being that we are each a connected formation. It's a bit like a tower. If you want to change one of the bricks at the foundational layers of the tower, you're going to have to undo the entire tower and place a new brick and then rebuild it. And that's a bit of a clumsy even metaphor. We know from our computers that when you download an update, certain downloads, you actually need to reboot the system. Why do you need to reboot the system? Because the entire operating system needs to integrate the new app that you've just downloaded. Well, it's probably a million times more refined and sophisticated when it comes to soul operations. So this, as I was running this morning, what I reflected on was that I thought I was truly making space, but something said, no, you're going to have to completely reboot your system. And it took me offline. And in the human case, you're talking about soul orchestration, which is an invisible, energetic configuration whereby if you make one tweak, the entire system, the entire shape and form of the system need to actually adapt to that. So that was the thought that turned up this morning, and Now, as a result of what happened in March, which is why I was really looking forward to today, although David and I, we kind of sketched an outline for the event, I decided I was going to wait for today. I wasn't going to look back at the outline. I wanted to, because this is, I think this is one of the changes for me, into this new phase, new octave. Well, maybe you don't need to work so hard on everything you do. Perhaps you ought to do less of a push effort, more be responding to the pull. So my orientation for today was to invite your voices about self-leadership and let that be the catalyzing, re-engendering for me, and for the opening that David and I will be offering, the opening of that event. And I thought I have an opportunity to drop this this insight that when we need, or when we want, or when we even desire very much to make one little change in our system, sometime where we will need to actually run an entire operating system reboot. I don't recommend, by the way, to have to do it with very high fever and a sense that half of your foot is on the other side. Highly not recommended. But sometime your system will take you to the edge to get your attention. So that's my opening. And my intuition actually is to first ask David if anything comes alive for you as a commentary on what I just offered, and then we'll move into the pebble in the pond invitation about what is self-leadership for you today. So we did, David, last year, bit of a dramatic recording after you had a bit of a dramatic event in your life. It was current opening 16 after you had a major operation. I'm not asking you or suggesting that you need to reconnect to that, but and no comparison whatsoever, by the way. But anything you'd offer from your the wisdom of the years of working with people on the human journey, please.
Yes. Thanks, Aviv. Good. I'm glad you're with us in strength, first of all. So good to be with you and good to be with you, folks. That self-leadership, it's such a vital ingredient, self-leadership in these epochal changing times, with the dynamic of energetic hygiene, and also with the knowing that self-leadership will only take you so far. It's almost like even when we're introducing it, we're saying that it will get you a certain measure of the way. And then there comes a point when you're looking for something else to nudge you about the next step. So what happened with you, Aviv, puts me in mind of that. You've got your plan, your projection, your self-leading into a writing retreat, and something else comes in and says, not this time. This is a different kind of treatment you're going to have. And puts you into a state where a deeper level of change is required. And so your self-leadership brought you to that point. So then something else can nudge. I love that idea of being nudged. So it puts me in mind of in a human journey, it's like we go, I think I can do it. I think I can do it. I think I can do it. Oh, self-leadership. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And then the third level, needing to kind of turn around and surrender and say, oh, it's doing it through me. It's doing it through me. It's doing it through me. So self-leadership may take you 2/3 of the way, but then hopefully a person doesn't stay in self-leadership and stick there, because it can lead them into being held at the level of their personal goals, personal ambitions, personal drive, which is terrific, but that's only part of the picture. It's part of our delicious program of human choice and possibility. I was working with someone today and I drew a little diagram for them, and It was actually a picture of an upward pointing triangle and the idea of you pushing towards it. And then it comes a point where the downward pointing triangle drops in, creating that seal of Solomon where something else drops into you. And there's a relationship even between the word prod, you're prodding at something, and then the anagram is drop. It then drops in upon you. And so self-leadership, fantastic, and it'll get us part of the way, and then be prepared, hopefully, to get power assistance, and it can move with a greater force and power than we even imagined or dreamed possible. So to be open to that, to be open to things being better than you thought they could be.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Well, with this prompt and opening, let me invite, please, everybody else, whoever is ready to contribute a pebble in the pond of self-leadership. What comes alive for you when the idea of self-leadership is presented? Please, Theodora.
Hello, everyone. I want to bring not directly speak about self-leadership, but about how it has worked for me. And this occurred as you were speaking today. So it involves some of the ingredients of hygiene and something else leading us and finding part of it on the way. So 30 years ago, 95, there was again very big fires in Greece. And as we were watching it on television, my mind became aware that whenever there is these big fires, forest fires, and everything is being destroyed, everyone, the whole population blames someone, the government, him, her, and everyone shouts and screams, but nothing is changing. So on that Sunday afternoon, on my balcony in Athens, I decided I will stop blaming. When there is a catastrophe, a disaster, I will not blame. I will find something else to do. So that was such a strong self-leading decision I took that it started to spread and to apply not only about fires and natural disaster, but about everything. Like, did I just bang the car yesterday again? Not on another car, fortunately on a wall. It's my doing. I did it. And it has helped me stay clean. It has helped me see things in proportion. It has helped me to be more free and to be able to perceive better what can happen. So last year, when there were again big fires, and I was watching on the internet, I started to see all the hundreds of people that were saving animals, rescuing an old woman, having a great feeling about the fire people trying and working and sacrificing sometimes themselves, and those pilots that sometimes there's the accident, the pilot of the aeroplane falls. So it turned into a magnificent journey, starting from that moment of self-decision to not blame. So that's what I would bring in.
Thank you. Thank you, Theodora. Please, Emmy.
I wrote something at the beginning of this meeting. And what I would like to contribute is self-leadership is knowing what part of you needs to take the lead, when, why, and how. And if it's not yet clear, to have a family conference, clarify your purpose, and get your orchestra aligned to your conductor, well tuned, well trained, confident, ready to surrender inwardly and outwardly.
Thank you, Amy. Please, Avshalom.
I had this experience some time ago when I was driving in my car on the highway, and then the thought occurred to me that I'm driving in the lane of my life, but as against the situation on the road, on the lane of my life, there is nobody in front of me. So realizing that there is nobody in front of me when it comes to living my life, it got me some sense of a new sense of self-leadership. Certain decisions that one has to make, that he is the only one authorized and knows how to make them. So that's one sense for me of this subject.
Yeah, thank you, Avshalom. Very vivid imagery. So there are no traffic jams unless you create your own. Yeah, great. Thank you. Please, Kireki.
Yes, in building on the example that Avshalom shared, I imagine self-leadership a bit like driving a car where the self is the vehicle. And if someone knows what car he has or she has, how to drive it, where one is going, and let's say one is driving in full daylight and the signs are in place, then he or she will probably arrive to one's destination. But what happens when there is heavy mist in the road, when there is heavy rain, when the landscape is shape-shifting, when someone messed up with the signs completely, and there are long queues of drivers driving the opposite direction? So this will probably cause confusion and a sense of being lost. So my question is, and I look forward to our exploration, how does one then rely on one's inner compass and not what your senses and are detecting from the environment, which may be misleading? A little bit like when a pilot is driving at night, they must not trust their senses. They must trust their inner compass, because if you trust your senses, they might be misleading. So basically, this is my inquiry.
Yeah, wonderful. I, of course, have personal experience and reference to what you relayed there at the end when you are at night, potentially in vertigo, and you've got to trust your instruments. Yeah. It can be a very surreal experience, especially, by the way, if you're flying above water, and sometimes the stars and the lights of the boats look very similar. So if you don't trust your instruments, you're in trouble. Thank you, Kireki. Please, Beth.
It's curious how each of us has kind of come with very different parts of the story in this. The question that the iHow team has been asking is, what leads? And how do you know? And part of the exploration that we'll be looking into is being able to trust the inside of you. Find, how does it move today? And what in you leads? And explore what that looks like through movement. As well, in the exploration, as you explore, you start to find the different parts. And again, can you trust what the inside of you tells you about where you're headed? We're mostly so located about getting to the spot, the place, the exact, but a lot of it is the journey and being able to move with it as it does in you, and listen to those things and let them show you how this folds together so that the inner leadership can then turn around and be, by example, leadership out in the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. Please, Drora.
I would add to hold within oneself the perception that one's journey, one's life is unique, never the same as anyone else, and that one has a journey to do in a lifetime, because everyone is coming from a different place, is going somewhere, which is what might be different. So, and the task might be different also here on Earth. So nothing of comparison, not at all, which is a big pitfall, yeah? Because people look at one another and they think that they can do the same or try to be the same as others, but it's not. It's a unique journey. And I would add to that the ability to be still and to be able to listen internally and to be guided. And sometimes it's just waiting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, Karen.
Yes, another pebble to add to the weed. When I first looked at this question, the first thing that turned up was this phrase, generating options. And I thought, oh, what do I actually mean by that? Because it's something to do with actually self-leadership, and it's having an order of self-awareness and self-preparation in terms of what you custodian, what you hold, how you regulate yourself, in order of how you self-author and self-align the energies in preparation. Because self-leadership is very much to do with, in a way, having an intelligent response. And if you leave everything to the moment and just hope that you are going to be able to react in a way that is the most efficacious, the most humanitarian, the most useful for everybody, then it's a little bit of a wing and a prayer. Whereas if you actually generate options, you are deepening the multiplicity of your choices. So in a way, when you face the obstacle courses or the traffic at night in the mist and everything, there are more ways to navigate through, and you're not leaving so much to chance. So it's another pebble.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Please, Daniel.
A lot of wonderful ripples running across the surface. I am wondering if I even know where I am going. For if I do not know where I am going, any road will take me there. So if I'm asking myself about my arts of self-leadership, I'm wondering if I have any idea of destination, which has caused me in the deeper sense to think about destiny, the stations on the way, and if I actually think that a person can know in this life what may be a journey of many lives. And that turns me back to a certain humility that we're actually touching things which are much bigger than ourselves, which maybe is what David was more than hinting at the beginning about things dropping in and being invitational, being clean. This hygiene is definitely bigger than just a wash and brush up. So these are the splashes that I would make.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Please, Roland.
At a very early age, I decided that I would go my own way and not be led by anyone. But I found out that you are limited by your own self-view and don't see your own potential. And thank God, on the way, people dropped in and give me guidance and changed my directions and helped me open my full potential that I couldn't see myself.
Thank you. Thank you, Roland. Please, Lisa.
So much has been said. Wonderful, truly wonderful, which makes me think that self-leadership runs in so many different levels. So if you take leadership of the self rather than self-leadership, who and what is leading the self? And that can come from the internal and the external. As it's been alluded, there's guidance, there's wonderful understandings, the search for the truth. I think that's always a great place to start, to go into that stillness that Dora mentioned, and then look for the truth. And for me, it always starts with neutrality. If I can bring myself to a neutral place and see things as they are actually meant to be, that will help me towards a better self-leadership and to be able to listen and hear from beautiful voices elsewhere of what is needed.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Please, Chrissy.
Leadership. The first thing it conjures up in me is the idea of external authority, the conditioning from when one is young, from the parents to the schooling, everywhere there's an external imprint that is actually put upon someone and not necessarily the encouragement towards a self-motivated way to be. So how it's turning up in me here is to actually invert that so that the leadership comes from within the choice of oneself and not what somebody says they think you need to do, or indeed what they were told that you think that they think that you need to do, but something that actually sits in your life. And that opens up a lot of things, but essentially the core of that is to choose and be a bit savvy about what the influences might be that try to persuade one to not go with the power of oneself. So I'll put that one in.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chrissy. Please, Peter, bring us home with your pebble about self-leadership.
Oh, great. There's so much to it, but I guess I've always subscribed to the idea that living itself is a creative act. And so we constantly create and recreate ourselves every day. And so as a human, we've been gifted freedom of choice. Self-leadership seems to me to be the wise usage of our freedom of choice, because we can define where we want to go, who we want to be, and that comes from within us. And it's really never more important than in times like this, where things are uncertain, the world looks unstable. Where does that stability and certainty come from? The best place, I believe, is from within, and it's by coming to know what you want to uphold in yourself, what you want to put into the world, represent into the world, be a champion of in the world, and also what you won't do and won't add to as part of what's going on in the world. And I think this, as a repetitive, ongoing way to be with oneself, it can grow self-worth, and it can build a greater trust in our system, in the system of us, you know, our spirit, our soul, our mind, our brain, our intuitions, our instincts. All these things work together to guide us forward. And the more we rely on that system and that operation, then I think the results come, we get greater results from it. And of course, this is not to say that we'll always know best, but we'll at least have come from a considered and well-intentioned space. And I loved what David said earlier about you may have an idea of where you want to go, but life will often give you something else. And I think the self-leadership will at least take you to the challenges that are worth fighting. And rather than just the random things that are blockades. So I'll put that in.
Thank you, Peter. So this was our spontaneous, in the moment, unrehearsed and unprepared weave about self-leadership. And if you stayed with us to the end of this and you're interested in more, come join us on April 26. We're going to explore a lot more, all inside this heightened awareness that to be alive is to embrace the responsibility of living, which means you get to lead your journey, including in times when we don't know where we're heading. That is also part of self-leadership. How do we relax and surrender into leading without knowing? That's a novel idea. Come join us on April 26, and you'll find the details right below this video there. Looking forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Along with our website at portalsofperception.org, Portals is also available on YouTube and on all podcast platforms, as well as social media. You can become an active member and join the conversation in community events. And you can help us get the word out by liking this content and by sharing it with your friends.